and welcome to the Art of Being Human. I'm sitting here with my little guy here beside me, my little lamb who looks so different. And he does look different. If you were to see him and twist him around and see his back and side, you would see that he seems to be different. But is he so different that I can't accept him? Well, of course I accept him. I have a stuffed animal collection, and I think he's pretty cute. So let me ask you a question. As a human being, what do you think you deserve? What do you think that you deserve growing up? What do you think all children deserve as they're growing up? What would make you happy? And who are the people that you are most attracted to? Well, I have a little list here. Every person deserves kindness, care, empathy, comfort, and love. And if a child has that growing up, then they can extend that to other people as an adult so that they can give other people and their own children what they need. But every person needs that. Every child needs that. And the person that you're going to be attracted to as a friend is going to be somebody that extends those characteristics to you because it's a part of their personality to do so. So how does it get to be a part of their personality to do so? They grew up with that same kind of thing. They grew up with feeling empathetic. They grew up with parents who showed them love, who showed them comfort, who showed them wisdom. Yes, did they make their share of mistakes? Of course, but that was forgivable. And then not only that, but you could learn from your mistakes. This is the kind of environment that people need to be in. This is the kind of environment that children need to grow up in. This is the kind of environment that make you feel good as an adult when you're with somebody else, or with somebody that you hope to marry, if they're like that, if they have those characteristics, that they show love, comfort, and so forth. Sometimes I wonder, when I see people, when I counsel couples, although I'm not doing it anymore, I'm retired supposedly, you wonder how people attract each other. You wonder why people marry the people that they marry. Why do they marry this individual who seems to be abusive? I had one lady come to me and said, you better marry this guy. It was an abusive husband that she had. Her parents had said, you can't get anybody better, so you may as well marry him. Well, why couldn't she get anybody better? It's a characteristic. They said, because you're not worth that much yourself. You're not that good yourself, so take what you can get. So she married an abusive husband. And later on, of course, they were divorced, and now she's very happy doing something else. I think she's still single. At any rate, people respond to the way they are treated. And if they are treated in a certain way, then they respond in a certain way. If you tell people they're worth something, and this is what, you're invaluable because you're worth so much because you're different. You have a way of helping people. You have a way of cheering people up. People will want to be with you, and that happens to be true. I was in a service once. I'm an ordained minister, and I was in a service once where there was a man who came who had a disability. It was a congenital disability. He was born with it. And the thing is, his face looked a little different. His hands looked a little different, the way that they were. They didn't look like normal hands. It wasn't gross or anything, but there was a little difference in him. And I finally said to him, I wanted to talk to him because I wanted him to know that he was deeply appreciated, and he kept saying, no one wants to be with me, no one wants to be with me. And so I said to him, after the service was over and I had a chance to talk to him, do you realize that what you have, nobody else has? A lot of people don't have it. Oh yeah, I know that, all right. Do you realize how valuable that is? And he looked at me, and I says, it's very valuable because you have a way of showing people their worth, and if they have a little difference, if they're disabled or if they have some kind of a disorder, then they're still wonderful people. They can still do wonderful things. You can have a way of showing them that. See what you are doing. He's an ordained minister. He's preaching to people. I says, you are doing all of those great things, and you have a disability. You can do it, and you can teach people that they can do it too. And he started to think. And then he started to smile because he caught what I was saying. I says, you have been chosen maybe to carry this disability so that you can show people what love is all about, and you can show people that it's okay. You have great value. You don't have to devalue yourself. Look at me. I'm an ordained minister. I do these things. I value myself, and so therefore you can too. And he started looking at me. He started smiling and smiling and smiling. By the time we were finished talking, he's grinning, he's laughing, and I says, think of the rewards that you are going to have in the eternity, in heaven, when God says, you did a good job, you did a great job, because you were willing to carry a disability which nobody would have wanted and show people their worth and your worth, showing people their worth through you showing them your worth. If you feel that you're a worthy person and you have a healthy self-concept, then you can show other people that they can have a good self-concept too. They can be healthy, they can be happy, they can do good things. If they're a little different, so what? You know, it doesn't mean that the world is coming to an end. It doesn't mean that you're not worth anything. Well, by the time we finished talking, he was laughing and grinning, and we were having just a wonderful conversation. And so I think when he left, he felt a lot better than he did when he came in. He came in and he did a good job in what he was doing, but you could tell he was kind of sensitive and shy because it was obvious that he had a disability. And so what he needed was to have somebody show him that was a good thing. It's a good thing sometimes to be able to show somebody that even though you're a little different than them, it means that you have worth and they have worth too, because they may be a little different in another way. And so we have to carry this through. People have worth. People have worth. Even babies have worth, which is why I think abortion is such a terrible thing. You're denying life to a person who has worth because they are people. Babies are people. No, they're not like adults. They don't think like adults. They don't act like adults because they're not developed enough to do so. But they have all the genetics of an adult. So therefore, when a baby is born, it is a human being. It has to be a human being. So therefore, give it what it needs to grow up to be a healthy human being, and then they can go out and do the same thing for other people. So you have to consider the worth of the human being. We need to be able to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. When you've made a mistake, instead of killing yourself emotionally about it, saying, oh, I'm awful, I can't do anything right, oh, I made a mistake, but I know why I made it, so I don't have to make it again. And I can do better next time, and I can get better and better. So this mistake is as a teaching tool. It's not something that can destroy me. It doesn't have to destroy me. No, it can be a teaching tool. Now, I've mentioned this story before, but I was at a concert, and Arthur Fiedler was a conductor. He's a very famous conductor. He's no longer alive, but he was very popular. He used to conduct the Boston Pops. Well, there was a trumpet player that was going to give a solo, and he probably felt terrible because he was so nervous that you could see him shake. I mean, you could actually see him shake like this. It wasn't anything that was well hidden, and he was scared to death, and he was probably in his 20s, a very good trumpet player, but he was terrified. What was he terrified of? Making a mistake. And so what Arthur Fiedler did, his back is to the audience, he takes his left hand and puts it on the man's shoulder, and he holds it there to try to calm him down until after his whole solo is over with. And then he's conducting with his right hand, and he's holding this man's shoulder by the left with the left hand, and just holding it there. Now I imagine what would have happened, what most people would have done afterwards was saying, I'm such a lousy person. You know, I'm just really such a lousy person. I can't do this, I can't do that. and I stand before an audience and I'm scared to death. How am I ever going to be able to be a soloist if I do that? And yet what he should say to himself is, yeah, it was difficult. It was a rough thing, but I did okay, and as I go along, more and more, I'll feel more and more uncomfortable, more and more comfortable with an audience. I'll get better and better. They won't see me shaking anymore. Now, it's a hard thing to get over a bad habit, or it's a hard thing to get over something if you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're afraid of something. It's hard to get over, but you can get over it, and you can get better and better. If you make a mistake, instead of saying, I'm no good, I made a terrible mistake. Yes, I made a mistake, but I understand why I did that now. I understand what my circumstances were, and so therefore I can get better and not make that mistake again, or I can fight against it, or I can do better for this, that, and the other. You know, and then gradually your self-concept increases. I have the ability to do this. Why should I be afraid to do it? You know, when I first started teaching, I never was nervous in front of an audience. I mean, it just isn't me. For some reason, I enjoy it, and I never got nervous. However, there was a man who was in his first year of teaching, and I was in my first year of teaching, and he was so nervous to face the students that all he could eat and digest was baby food. So he went around for 2 weeks or so before the classes actually started, and he was eating baby food. I like the baby this and I like the baby that. He was talking about it. I says, why are you eating baby food? Because I'm so nervous to face a class that my digestive system is in an uproar and I can't digest anything unless it's really easy to digest, so I am eating baby food. This is a true story. And so as I worked with him, I said, you know, I said, as you get better and as you work with the kids, you're going to find that it's not hard to work with kids, and you're going to feel better, and you can, you know, reverse your baby food and start eating like an adult again, which eventually he did. Now, some of our nervousness and some of our anxiety, I think, is congenital. Because I met a student, I was counseling this student, and he was nervous all the time. And I said, why are you nervous all the time? I don't know. It's been like that all the time. I'm nervous. I wake up and I'm shaky and I'm nervous. I'm so used to it that I know that that's what I'm going to be and that's what I am. And so I worked with him. Now, I think in his case, maybe it was congenital because he was like that all the time, and when he wouldn't need to be like that, he was like that. But so you have to handle even genetics. But if you can use self-talk, this is by nature, but that's okay. It's going to get better and better. I don't have to stay stuck. I can feel better as time goes on, and you give yourself some hope. Now, I worked with a person. I'm not giving you any private information by any means, because don't reveal confidences, but this person had tried to commit suicide 2 or 3 times. And he was very cyclical. That is, he would be on top and feel good for a few hours or a few weeks, then suddenly he'd crash and he'd feel terrible. And he was very depressed. I'm not saying he was bipolar, but it was a similar kind of disorder, but maybe not to that degree. And so what I did, I told him, what I want you to do is write down how you feel when you're feeling good. It's a good day, I like people, I like my job, I like to do the things that I do, I can do it, I feel comfortable in it, I feel happy, I like my apartment, and write down everything that you can that's positive. And when you get down, read it off. I mean, write it down, keep it with you. When you start your expectations start to fail and you start to feel more negative and negative and negative, which is what he would do because he was cyclical. Sometimes he was up, sometimes he was down. Read those things that you like, because when you start coming up again, all of those things are still going to be true. And if you have something to look forward to, sometimes it's a great relief for you. So, okay, he has this list. When he gets down, he reads this list. He says it doesn't seem real. And I said, it doesn't seem real to you now because you're not there. but what you're going to come back and you're going to be there again, because the body was not geared to stay in one emotional level permanently. I can think of a few exceptions, but for most people, if they get down, they're going to get back up. Now, it may take a while, but if they have something to know they're going to return to that's healthy and good, that's going to be a help to them to return to what's normal for them. And so it's a good practice if anyone wants to try it here. I like this about myself, I like that about myself, and so forth and so on. Then you could gradually think about that, and it becomes a part of you. What you read and what you want to see and what you do can become a part of yourself. So if you're not feeling good, well, I have this ability, that ability, I can do this, I can do that, this is what happens, that's good, I feel good about that, and keep reading it over and over again. It will become a part of you. When you start to lift up, then you're going to say, oh yeah, that's true. What was I so depressed about? You know, it's like fear. You have a fear of going to the dentist. You have a fear of going to the doctors. You have a fear of doing whatever it is you're doing. And then when you get there, the fear goes away. And then you come out of it saying, that wasn't so bad. You know, that really wasn't so bad. So what was I really afraid of? And you ask yourself the question, and there's no answer for it because you can't imagine why you were afraid, but you just were. I think we kind of developed this fear over a period of time. I went to the doctor and this happened. I went to the doctor and that happened. And therefore I'm afraid to go back. They may give me a bad diagnosis. But when you're there, you don't feel better because that expectation leaves you. You are not there. You're not anticipating something if you're already in it. If you're not in it and you think about it, then you may become afraid about it. That's anticipatory fear. But when you're there, the fear goes away. Why does it go away? You're not anticipating anymore. You're actually there. You're actually doing it. And you come out of it, and it wasn't that bad. And you say, oh, good, you know, I made it. So what was I afraid of to begin with? You could almost train yourself out of a fear response to something if you're experiencing it. It's like conditioning yourself for it. I'm conditioned to be afraid. Well, what if I do this instead of that? Then maybe I'm not so afraid. If I'm afraid to speak in public, I'm not, but if I were, maybe if I spoke in front of 2 or 3 people instead of hundreds, then I'd feel better. And so you gradually get used to it. It's like going and getting shots if you have an allergy. So you can get used to the allergy and your body no longer reacts like it's an allergic reaction. You know, so there are things that you can do to help yourself. There are things that you can do to help yourself if you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're worried. I have people make a worry box. They have a little box. They write down their worries. They put it in the box. And then I say, okay, you can't worry until, say, a certain time. I have them make up a worry time. Well, what about 8 to 8:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays? And if you start to worry before that, you say, no, I'm not going to worry now. This isn't my worry time. I have to wait until my worry time to be worried. And you get to your worry time and you open that box and you're not worried. You have successfully learned to put it off and put it off. And by the time you get there, you can't conjure it up. Oh, now I've got to worry. Now I've got to worry. It's in the box. I had one of my friends who was a first grade teacher, and she was good at what she did. And she loved the kids, and the kids loved her. One little boy was crying and crying and crying. His first year in school, he was 6 years old. And she couldn't console him enough. He cried and cried and cried. Every day it was a distraction to the other students who by now had adjusted to going to school. He was still crying about it. So she bought herself an apron with a big pocket. And she said to him, I want you to put your troubles in my pocket. I'll carry them for you. If I carry them, you don't have to carry them because I've got them. If I've got them, then you don't have to have them. And he looked at her and he caught on to what she meant, and he cupped his little hands and he put his worries in her pocket. And he stopped crying and he never cried again. Now she told him, and I think she had to do this, if you want your worries back, I'll give them back to you. But you don't have to have them back. It's your choice. She kept that apron in her closet in school for the full school year. He never asked for his worries back. But you see, you do have to give people a choice. You can do this or you can do that. If you want to worry, if you find that fulfilling, you can take your worries back and you can hold on to them again. But if you don't want to worry and you let somebody else take it for you, then you're all right. Somebody else will take it for you, and they'll treasure and keep those for you just in case you want them back again. But if you don't want them back, and who does, leave them. Then somebody else has got it. So just leave it, and then you don't have to worry about it. And this little boy made a remarkable recovery, and he never cried again, and he mixed in with the kids, and he was fine because his teacher had his problems, and he no longer had to worry about them in her pocket. And when she had them in her pocket, he did not have to have them. So that's almost, in a sense, a sermon, you know. But at any rate, it was an actual event. I did talk to her, I knew her, and she actually did that and got him over his worries that way. And so therefore, you know, there are ways of coping with anxiety and worry. And the thing is, when I get through this section of what we're doing in the Art of Being Human, I'm probably going to go back and start discussing anxiety, depression, and things like that, as I have done before. But the reason for me to do it is that the prevalence of anxiety and depression is so high due to the pandemic that I think we need to re-review what you can do, how you can help yourself, and also include things about the self-concept, because if you think you can ride this through, which you can, and how to do that, then you can feel so much better for yourself. And if you are feeling that you're different, you lost your job, maybe 25 other people didn't, but you lost yours because they were downsizing, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So I'm going to close it here because we'll be going on with this next time. And when we get to the close of this, I'm going to talk about anxiety and depression as a separate entity at some point. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.